Hello, I am your heart. Can you hear my voice? Can you feel me?
That is, wow. That is a profoundly intimate and, frankly, a slightly jarring way to start a deep dive into some pretty serious research.
It is, isn't it? And that's exactly the power of the source material we're unpacking today. Our sources start with this almost startling personal invitation, a request for us to immediately bypass the analytical mind and just feel.
But it doesn't stay there for long. That poetry, as you said, it transitions very quickly into a very serious, almost urgent diagnosis of the global state of affairs.
Exactly. It immediately establishes that core feeling that I think resonates with, well, with nearly everyone today. The sense that life is just accelerating at light speed.
Oh, absolutely. We feel like we're constantly running just to keep up. The description in the source is so vivid, so relatable. It talks about our lives passing like electricity and wind.
Mm. And that's such a perfect image.
It is. We have this ever-increasing stack of responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
Our work just expands to fill every available minute, and yet the time we have for, true rest or connection, it seems to be shrinking to almost nothing.
It's a shared worldwide experience of just exhaustion, total overwhelm.
It really is.
So, okay, that's the setup. And I think that brings us to the real mission of this deep dive today. We're going to unpack the sources. Well, it's a pretty radical claim.
Understatement of the year.
Right. The claim is that the solution to this pervasive global chaos, this feeling of perpetual exhaustion and burnout, it doesn't lie in an external fix.
Not a political shift, not the latest productivity hack that's going to save us.
Exactly. The solution lies in discovering and accessing a powerful yet profoundly ignored source of intelligence that's already within us. We are talking about the intelligence of the heart.
And this framing is just so critical because we're not just talking about, being a kind person or being compassionate, which are wonderful things. But this is about a fundamental biological and neurological technology. It's about discovering a capability that can literally upgrade our internal operating system.
An upgrade. I like that. And that leads to the audacious central claim, the promise that frames our entire conversation today.
The big one.
The big one, that recognizing and harnessing the true intelligence and power of the heart could be an event as world-changing, as utterly transformative, as the discovery and eventual taming of electricity itself.
And if that claim holds even a fraction of truth, it just fundamentally changes how we have to approach resilience, self-mastery, everything.
It forces us to confront our current understanding of the human condition. The source really doesn't shy away from the pain points. It validates the sense of burnout and separation.
It does. It calls it the pulse of our time. It's this urgent call to action that's rooted in the realization that, look, the external world is not going to slow down for us.
So today, we're laying the foundation. We are beginning the journey that's described in the source, moving from mind to heart and then ultimately to the soul.
And to do that, we need to understand precisely why this heart intelligence is so necessary right now, what it means physiologically beyond the poetry, and how the core mechanism, this idea of coherence, actually works.
Let's prepare to look at the heart in a way that modern science is only really just recently beginning to validate, not as just a pump,
but as a sophisticated, independent center of information processing. This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, let's unpack this diagnosis of global chaos first, because the sources truly, they just capture the modern dilemma perfectly. They describe the experience of being on a super fast train.
A chaotic, high-speed vehicle hurtling through the world. Yes.
And our entire daily effort, as the source points out, is dedicated simply to struggling to stay on board.
Just holding on for dear life, trying desperately not to fall off as responsibilities and information and demands just fly past at this impossible velocity.
Yeah.
It really captures the sheer exhausting complexity of 21st century life.
Mm-hmm. What stands out to me is how the sources immediately go beyond the financial and logistical stress. They dive right into the deep emotional consequences.
Yes. The vocabulary they use is so specific, and it's devastating, where it's like fatigue, giving up.
And critically, that profound sense of loneliness and separation, that feeling of internal fragmentation.
That sensation of isolation, even when you're surrounded by other people, is perhaps the defining emotional signature of our era.
I think you're right.
You can be hyperconnected digitally, right? Scrolling through thousands of faces on a screen, yet feel completely, utterly disconnected from your own core, just adrift in a sea of these superficial interactions.
And here is where the source makes its first critical shift, which is It's incredibly liberating for the listener. It explicitly removes the blame from the individual.
That's the key.
This feeling of exhaustion, of failure, of defeat. It is not a personal failing. It's not, as the source puts it, a personal defeat. It's not that you are inadequate.
That is the pivotal moment. Because for decades, the cultural narrative around burnout has been, oh, you just need better time management, or you need to learn to say no.
Right, just optimize yourself.
Exactly. It places the entire burden on the individual to somehow optimize themselves against a system that's fundamentally unoptimizable. The source just flips this completely.
It recontextualizes this intense personal struggle as the evolutionary status of our time. Now, I want to pause on that phrase. In the original Farsi, this phrase, forso, or it carries a much greater weight than a simple self-help platitude.
It does. It suggests a necessary, perhaps painful, but ultimately forward-moving state of global transition.
So by framing it that way, the intense personal stress and the internal chaos we all feel is recast. It's not our fault. It's the inevitable external reflection of massive, accelerating global change.
We are not broken. The system is in radical flux.
So the source argues that we find ourselves at this critical historical juncture, a watershed moment where the established old systems,
Whether they're social hierarchies, economic models, governmental structures.
all of it, they're proving unable to handle the speed and complexity of the current age. They are, as the source describes them, inoperative or actively collapsing.
And because those old structures are crumbling and the new operating systems for global civilization haven't fully firmed yet, the result is the chaos. It's the anxiety, the profound lack of stability we feel in our daily lives.
It's the psychological price we pay for living during a period of exponential change.
It is. The turmoil we see in the news, in our job markets, even in our personal relationships, it's simply the manifestation of this huge, large-scale evolutionary pressure.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source offers a really profound and I think ultimately hopeful analysis. This chaos we're experiencing is not the end.
No. It's the labor pain of a new world. It's a natural, albeit sometimes terrifying, reflection of a radical transformation that demands an internal evolution from us to match the external one.
I really appreciate that reframing. It immediately shifts your identity as the listener from being a passive victim of circumstances, just bemoaning the state of the world.
To an active participant with agency.
Yes. And that agency is the core message. It leads directly to the source's crucial instruction, the point of action for the individual.
Which is?
In the age of change, do not wait for balance. Create the balance yourself.
That is the ultimate internal declaration of independence.
Yeah.
It's saying the external world is volatile.
Mhm.
I get that. I acknowledge that. But I will not allow my internal state to be dictated by it.
Exactly. It moves you out of that state of passive waiting, just hoping for things to stabilize out there, and into a state of active internal creation.
We cannot stop the global speed train. We can't. But we have to fundamentally change our internal navigation strategy. If the world is defined by external volatility, stability must be generated from within.
And that leads us to the crucial transition. If the solution isn't external, if we can't wait for the systems to fix themselves, where is this power to create balance actually stored?
It leads us inevitably inward. The source identifies the heart as the key, the absolute key, to controlling this volatility and creating a whole new life experience. We have to look past the metaphor of the heart as just a poetic symbol.
And understand the true magnitude of this internal capability.
Precisely.
And this brings us to what is, for me, the most dramatic argument in the whole source material. The comparison of heart intelligence to the discovery of electricity. This is where the sheer magnitude of the claims really hits you.
It absolutely does. It sets the scope of the potential change. The claim is, as you said, audacious. The discovery of the true intelligence of the heart is comparable to the discovery of electricity, potentially the most important discovery in thousands of years.
And as researchers, we have to ask, why that parallel? Why not compare it to the wheel or fire or the printing press? Why electricity?
I think the source chose electricity because it represents the harnessing of a primal, powerful, and previously untamable force that just fundamentally reorganized civilization almost overnight.
Okay, let's break down that analogy in detail because the source structures it in these three perfect stages. The first stage is the time before harnessing.
Right. For centuries, people knew electricity existed. Of course they did. But only in its wild, terrifying, and destructive forms: lightning, thunder, static discharge.
They were aware of the undeniable presence of this immense power, but they were utterly ignorant of its practical, useful potential.
And they were afraid of it. As you expect, they were in awe of it, but also deeply afraid. They might have attributed it to angry gods or mysterious forces, but they certainly couldn't use it to light a village or, communicate across continents.
It was known, but it was unusable.
That's the key distinction. Known presence versus utilized potential. They had no idea about the physics of it or what constructive, predictable things could be done with it.
Then we get to the second stage, the turning point. This is when a few individuals, the inventors, the researchers, the outliers like Faraday, Tesla, Edison, they figured out how to tame this wild force.
They moved it from a mysterious, chaotic outdoor phenomenon to a controlled, predictable, useful resource. They created the first internal systems of access.
The wires, the dynamos, the switches.
That transition from a wild, destructive force to a controlled, reliable power is the critical step. It's the difference between just seeing a natural force and having the ability to generate and direct that force whenever you want.
That systemization, the transmission lines, the standardized voltage, is what made the power accessible and reliable for everyone, not just for the scientists in the lab.
And the result? Stage 3. Complete revolution. The source emphasizes how rapidly civilization was just fundamentally and completely transformed.
Lifestyle, industry, communication, commerce, everything was rebuilt around the harnessing of this power. The modern world we inhabit today is the direct, undeniable result of learning to tame that mysterious primal electrical force.
Now here is the stunning application of the analogy. The source suggests we are currently in the 18th century phase regarding the heart's true intelligence.
We're living in the pre-Edison phase of our inner world.
Exactly. We know the heart exists, of course. We know it's a pump. We use it metaphorically all the time. We write poetry about love and pain, and we always intuitively place our hand on our chest, not our head, when we speak of our deepest truths.
We have that intuitive, ancient knowledge that the heart is the emotional, maybe even the spiritual center of our being.
But, and this is a monumental challenge, we have not yet learned how to harness this immense power in a reliable, systematic, and intentional way.
We rely on random emotional spikes, or these fleeting moments of quiet intuition.
Right. Instead of being able to consciously access and utilize the heart's regulatory power on demand, in the middle of a stress crisis at work or in an argument with a loved one.
So if we can create the internal equivalent of the wires and switches, the system to tame this inherent intelligent force, the consequences for our inner world and our ability to navigate stress will be just as monumental as the consequences of electricity were for the outer world.
The scope of change is enormous. The source promises that taking hold of the heart's power will fundamentally change everything. Our way of thinking, how we process feelings, our daily actions, and crucially, our ability to form deep, resonant relationships.
And it really puts the struggle of modern life into sharp relief. We are trying to navigate a complex, high-speed, electrically powered modern world, a world of constant external demands.
Using an internal navigation system that we have yet to truly turn on.
That's it. The necessity of this internal upgrade, this shift from the heart as a simple pump to a powerhouse, becomes absolutely critical for our survival and our ability to thrive.
I think a lot of listeners might hear this and be, understandably skeptical. They might be thinking, my emotions are messy. How can the heart, the seat of all that messy emotion, possibly be the key to stability?
And that is the exact question we have to tackle now. If this power is real, if it's not just a beautiful metaphor for being kind, we have to move beyond the poetry and the analogy and get into the hard science.
What exactly is this intelligence, and how do researchers define it physiologically?
That transitions us perfectly into defining the precise, measurable mechanism that the source insists is very, very real.
Let's do it.
So let's address that skepticism head on. Is heart intelligence just a pretty flowery term used to sell a philosophical concept? The source's answer is a resounding no. It asserts this is a real and physiological capability. It is a measurable state, visible in lab equipment.
This is where we move from philosophy to applied neuroscience and cardiology. The source introduces the key scientific term, coherence. In the original Farsi, squeak ensijam means harmony or alignment, and this is so much more than just feeling relaxed.
Coherence. A lot of people associate that with simple meditation or maybe deep breathing. What is the precise, almost mechanical definition that makes heart intelligence unique?
Okay, so coherence is defined as a specific state where the major rhythms of the body, primarily the heart rate variability, the brain waves, and the nervous system, are all synchronized. They're aligned into a highly efficient, ordered pattern.
So it's not just slowing down, it's syncing up.
Think of it less like an orchestra, just tuning up randomly, and more like a high-performance engine running at its optimal RPMs. Everything is working together in perfect harmony.
But how does the heart become the conductor of that orchestra? I mean, it just beats, right?
But that beating is not random, and that's the critical distinction. We have to talk about something called heart rate variability, or HRV.
Yep.
HRV is the natural fluctuation of the time interval between successive heartbeats. Now, when we are stressed, anxious, or frustrated, the HRV pattern is chaotic and turbulent. It's jagged, spiky, and unpredictable.
So it's an electrical pattern that looks like a stock market crash, just frantic and erratic.
Exactly. And this chaotic rhythm is a powerful, nonverbal physiological signal that the heart sends up the primary communication channel, the vagus nerve, to the brain. The brain receives this frantic, chaotic signal and interprets it as danger, we are under attack, activate fight or flight.
And that keeps the brain locked in that reactive survival mode.
Which explains why when we're stressed, we can't think clearly. The brain is getting a constant, noisy, terrifying signal from the body's central rhythm regulator.
Okay, so that's the problem state.
Precisely. Now, here is the mechanism of change, the solution detailed in the sources. When we consciously choose to experience positive regenerative emotions, and these have to be specific high-vibration emotions like gratitude, genuine compassion, love, or appreciation, the heart's beat pattern transforms completely.
How does that look scientifically? What's happening on the monitor?
The source describes this transformation beautifully. It says the heart rhythm moves from that chaotic and turbulent pattern to a soft and highly regular waves pattern. When you view it on a monitor, instead of those jagged spikes, you see a smooth, sinusoidal, orderly wave. This is physiological coherence.
So the emotion itself literally reorganizes the physical electrical pattern of the heart rhythm. It smooths it out and makes it predictable.
Yes. And this is not just a correlation. The emotional shift causes the electrical pattern shift. That regulated coherent rhythm then sends a powerful, clear, and stable signal, a coherent message, back up the vagus nerve to the brain.
And this is where the real intelligence lies. The heart, now acting as the regulator, is communicating with the brain, basically telling it to relax and optimize.
And that communication flow is primarily from the heart to the brain, not the other way around. That really contradicts the long-held notion that the brain is the sole master regulator of everything.
That is a revolutionary insight.
It is. The vagus nerve is a highway, and something like 80 to 90% of the fibers are afferent, meaning they carry information from the body to the brain. The heart is constantly messaging the brain about our internal state.
And a coherent state provides the optimal messaging.
The best message possible. And what's more, the heart has its own complex network of neurons. It's often called the heart's little brain, which can process information locally and sometimes independently of the cranial brain.
So the heart is truly an information processing center, not just a muscle.
It is. And when the brain receives this stable, organized, coherent signal instead of the turbulent, chaotic one, it is immediately calmed. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for higher-level thinking, for executive function, decision-making, impulse control, it suddenly comes back online.
That is the anti-burnout solution right there.
Right.
Clear thinking under pressure isn't a matter of willpower. It's a matter of biological regulation.
Exactly. This regulated signal helps the brain in several critical ways. First, to think more clearly, focusing attention and solving complex problems with ease. Second, to manage emotions effectively, shifting us out of that reactive fight or flight state and into a creative, responsive state.
And third,
it helps us gain greater access to intuition and creativity, which are completely drowned out when the brain is locked in survival mode.
so heart intelligence, to define it, is the ability to consciously learn how to activate and sustain the state of coherence, to turn on the stability engine at will.
But we haven't even touched on the electromagnetic field yet. This is another layer of the physiological reality that is just mind-blowing.
Go on.
The heart generates the strongest rhythmic electromagnetic field in the body. It's up to 5,000 times stronger electrically and 100 times stronger magnetically than the field generated by the brain.
Wow. That's an incredibly powerful field. What are the implications of coherence on that field?
When you enter a state of coherence, this electromagnetic field becomes even more powerful and more ordered. The sources suggest this field radiates outside the body. It can be measured several feet away with sensitive magnetometers, and it can actually influence the brainwaves of people around you.
So wait, stability isn't just an internal benefit,
Yeah.
it's a contagious external one.
That's the argument.
If I am coherent, I am physically emitting a measurable field that can promote calm and stability in my environment.
That is the argument. The heart is not just a regulator for your system. It's a potential synchronizer for the systems of those around you. We spend so much energy on verbal communication, but our sources suggest the most powerful form of nonverbal communication might be the coherence level of our heart's electromagnetic field.
It makes sense why we place so much importance on relationships and community. If we're constantly interacting with people who are emitting erratic, stressful fields, it's going to affect our own system's stability and vice versa.
And that's why the focus must be internal first. We have prioritized the brain, the seat of logic, for so long, but these sources argue that the power center, the point of highest leverage for system regulation, is actually the heart. The brain functions at its best when the heart provides the optimal, stable energy source.
If this coherence is the engine of change, we need the user manual. What are the simple controls we have to activate this inner electricity?
And the good news is they are surprisingly simple.
This is the comforting pivot of the source material. We don't need complex physical equipment or specialized labs or years of monastic training. The key to harnessing this enormous power, the sources reassure us, is incredibly simple and accessible.
It's our attention and our intention. The power is democratic and immediate. It's available to everyone, regardless of circumstance, provided they understand the 3 simple actions required to initiate that physiological shift.
Okay, let's break down the simple 3-step technique suggested by the source. This is the practical wiring diagram for achieving coherence.
This moves the learning from conceptual understanding to active application, which is what people need.
Step 1, focus. Bring conscious, deliberate focus and attention to the area of the heart, the center of the chest region for a few minutes. Why is focusing the attention so critical as a first step?
Because attention is the switch that disconnects you from the default mode network, that constant stream of frantic, often negative thoughts in your head. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. By pulling your awareness away from the chaotic mental chatter and grounding it centrally in your chest, you begin to interrupt the stress signal. It's a willful act of separating yourself from the internal noise.
It's the first step in telling your brain, I am not listening to the chaos right now, my focus is elsewhere.
Precisely. And that creates the necessary space for step 2, breath. Now, this isn't just about breathing deeply, it's about regulating the rhythm. The source suggests gently deepening and slowing the breath.
Is there a specific rhythm to aim for?
Usually aiming for a rhythm of about 5 to 6 seconds on the inhale and 5 to 6 seconds on the exhale is a great place to start. That precise, slow, rhythmic breathing is key.
Why that rhythm specifically?
Because it acts as an immediate signal of safety to the nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is intrinsically linked to breath. When the breathing slows and becomes uniform like that, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, that's the rest and digest mode, and it initiates a shift away from the sympathetic fight or flight stress response.
So it's preparing the body for the coherent state by downregulating the stress hormones.
Exactly. So the focus starts the separation from the mind, and the breath starts the de-escalation of the physical stress response. Now, we arrive at the most powerful step, the real catalyst.
Step 3, feeling.
This is where the intelligence is truly activated. The instruction is to consciously and intentionally awaken a positive feeling. This is not passive wishing. It's an active choice to generate appreciation, gratitude, or genuine care.
How do you do that on demand, especially if you're feeling stressed?
The source suggests recalling a loving memory, thinking of a person or a pet you deeply cherish, or even just focusing on something you are truly grateful for in your immediate environment. The feeling of the sun on your skin, anything.
So the feeling is the fuel that transforms that erratic electrical pattern into the smooth, coherent wave we talked about.
Correct. The intentional shift in your emotional state is the biochemical and electrical catalyst. When you generate appreciation, your body releases regulatory hormones and neuropeptides that directly influence the heart's rhythm. You are literally using the power of emotion to create the desired physical state, a coherent heart pattern.
It's a closed, self-reinforcing loop. The intentional positive emotion creates the coherent heart rhythm,
Which sends a stable, clear signal to the brain.
which then reinforces your ability to sustain that positive feeling and focus. The system cleans up its own signal.
And the source emphasizes that these actions are not momentary band-aids. They're not just for a quick, good feeling. They are exercises designed for rewiring the nervous system.
You're consciously training your body to generate and maintain the coherent state, making it the new baseline, not the exception.
It is quite literally like training a new muscle of emotional and physiological stability.
And the more you practice these 3 steps, focus, breath, feeling, the faster and more reliably your system can achieve and sustain coherence, even when the external world is just screaming chaos at you.
And the rewards promised by the source are immense because the transformation is systemic. This is not a marginal improvement. The source claims that applying this intelligence will rapidly and significantly change every single facet of your life.
From your way of thinking and feeling to improve reactions to stress, deeper and more authentic relationships.
Measurable improvements in physical health. The data on this is really compelling.
I love that the promise extends beyond just personal peace and into functional competence. It's about optimizing your performance under pressure.
And critically, it connects back to that core problem of loneliness and separation. The practice of coherence is also described as a journey to find the real self.
The self that's buried under years of chronic stress, external pressures, social expectations, and just the anxiety of trying to keep up with that super fast train.
The source provides this powerful metaphor of the journey as a summary. It's a journey from burnout to vitality, from separation to connection. And it is the pathway from the mind to the heart and then to the soul.
That pathway suggests a clear hierarchy of operations.
It does. The mind identifies the problem and initiates the technique. The heart provides the power and the stability, the coherence to solve the problem. And the soul is the destination, that connection to our deeper, truer, integrated nature, which is unlocked once the internal chaos is quieted.
It truly is the ultimate system upgrade. The source uses that exact description. Connecting to the heart is like migrating from an old, slow computer operating system that constantly crashes under pressure,
Which are our old stress patterns.
to a super fast computer with the latest OS version that's capable of handling the complexity of the 21st century.
We simply cannot handle the sheer cognitive and emotional complexity of the modern world with pre-industrial neurological hardware. It's not possible. Heart intelligence is presented as the necessary evolutionary tool for survival, for stability, and ultimately for flourishing in this accelerated age.
And it transforms that idea of creating your own balance even in the middle of global chaos from a philosophical aspiration into a physiological, achievable reality that you can activate with your own intention.
Precisely. You are consciously generating the internal environment of stability, regardless of the unpredictable external conditions. This is the definition of true personal power.
So let's summarize this radical invitation that's been extended by the source material we've unpacked in this first deep dive. It began by validating that profound feeling of being overwhelmed by modern life. It acknowledged the shared exhaustion and the sense of accelerating speed that defines our time.
But then it offered that revolutionary pivot. It reframed this global chaos, not as a personal catastrophe or some defect in you, the individual, but as a necessary catalyst. A powerful evolutionary pressure forcing us to look inward and discover this immense, unharnessed power we call heart intelligence.
The central, audacious claim that the intelligence of the heart is as potentially transformative as the discovery of electricity. It really sets the tone for its absolute necessity in the modern era. We've moved beyond metaphor to establish that this is a measurable physiological reality called coherence.
A synchronized state that we can achieve through our conscious attention and our intentional positive emotion.
So the key takeaway for you, the listener, is this. The power to pass through this challenging era, the power to create balance, is already internal. You should not wait for external systems to stabilize before you find your peace and clarity. That power resides within your own heart, waiting to be accessed through the surprisingly simple yet potent techniques of focus, breath, and feeling.
And the final declaration from the source material is so powerful and definitive. It's a confident statement of the trajectory of human evolution.
The age of the heart has arrived.
And that leads us to a final contemplative thought for you. We've discussed the mind-bending potential of harnessing this inner electricity and the possibility that this generation is the one that learns to truly integrate this fundamental source of energy and intelligence. What if, by creating stability within yourself, you contribute to creating a new world?
The sources ask you to engage with this immediately. If you were to take just 30 seconds right now, close your eyes, focus on the area of your chest, and deliberately pull your attention away from that busy, noisy mind. What simple, unheard message might be waiting there for you, ignored until now?
Not a complex philosophical treatise, but perhaps just a simple word that speaks to your deepest need right now. Peace, power, warmth, or clarity. What is that immediate quiet feeling that your mind has been too preoccupied and chaotic to receive?
This deep dive was just the introduction to this revolutionary idea and the promise of what heart intelligence can do. The journey absolutely does not end here.
No, we've only laid the foundational science and established the core mechanism of coherence. In the upcoming parts of this series, we're going to delve much deeper into the practical techniques, the specific ways to sustain coherence in high-stress environments, and share real-world examples that make this internal transformation possible.
If you wanted to continue this journey with us and learn how to practically apply heart intelligence to reduce stress, improve your focus, and find your real self, make sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the notification bell.
That way you'll be notified immediately when the next part of this revolutionary series is released.
And you can join us for the rest of the deep dive into the wisdom of the heart.
Until then, focus inward and practice that simple coherence.
We'll see you soon.